This is AIM Agenda. Thanks for your company. With me now in Melbourne, Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer, and in Adelaide, Labor MP Nick Champion. Nick Champion, you heard what Joe Hockey had to say there, that Kevin Rudd's been all talk, no real concrete proposals. Does he need to provide some detail today, later today, when he addresses the National Press Club on some of those policy matters that have been flagged to the media but no detail as yet, like scrapping the carbon tax early and moving to a floating price?
Well, it's a pretty interesting criticism from the opposition, who have barely got any policies at all and really running on a platform of negativity. Mr Abbott's looked a bit like a rabbit in the spotlight this week, avoiding debate as his small target strategy unravels before the nation, before his backbench. You know, it's the Liberal Party who have to provide detail. It's the Liberal Party who have to show up for debates. It's Mr Abbott who has to stump up policy. Everybody knows what the Labor Party stands for. We stand for stability. We stand for growth in the economy. Our economy is 14% bigger than what it was prior to the GFC. And we stand for an end to the divisive, nasty politics that has been the hallmark, I think, of Mr Abbott's leadership of the opposition.
Well, that's certainly what Kevin Rudd's going to do today in this speech. Kelly O'Dwyer, try and juxtapose what he says is his unapologetic, optimistic view of our nation's future with what he will say in this speech is a daily diatribe of negative politics. It seems to be working thus far, if you look at the opinion polls. His return has been warmly welcomed. Well,
first let me respond, Kieran, to just some of the pretty outrageous things that Nick has just said. I mean, he said the Labor Party stands for stability. We've had more than 70 frontbenchers out of a caucus of 103. A third of the ministries just resigned. We've had 2 prime ministers torn down. This is hardly a stable government. We do know what the Labor Party stands for. It stands for huge debts and deficits. We've gone from a very strong economic position to a much weaker one. And Kevin Rudd can say all he likes at the press club today, how Australia is better off than a lot of other countries in the world, but it's not good enough to simply say that Australia... No, but it's not... No, let me say this.
That's because we are better off than a lot of countries in the rest of the world.
Let me finish, Nick.
Yeah, please let Kelly finish, Nick. We'll get back to you in a moment. Patience.
It's not good enough. It's not good enough to simply say that Australia is better than the weakest economies in Europe. We should be better than the strongest economies in Asia. We started with a very strong economic position. We had no borrowings, no net debt. We didn't have the gross debt ceiling that the current government has, pushing through $300 billion now. They're going to have to raise it again, and Kevin Rudd has to be honest about that today. He's going to have to be honest as well about the deficits. In the government papers...
Nick, you can respond to that point, if you like, that Kelly was making there about, you know, the comparisons and who we should be comparing to. But the other question I want to put to you is this Rudd trying to reclaim his economic legacy? When Labor dumped him in 2010, you basically gave away any chance of running on your economic performance through the financial crisis. But Rudd's trying to return to that without, you know, suggesting that things are back to where they were. Is that going to really be viable given that 3-year interlude in between?
Well, look, the reason why we can claim that this is the best country in the world and the best economy in the world is because it is. And it doesn't matter who you compare us with, whether you compare us with Europe or whether you compare us with China and Japan or whether you compare us to the United States of America. This is the best country in the world with the best economy in the world. And the Liberal Party are the only people in the world who want to tear it down and talk it down. And all Kelly's got is negativity, and that's why that's all we're going to hear in the run-up to the election. Look, you know, I think
we should be in a much stronger position, Nick, and you know that.
Our record through the GFC is unparalleled around the world. Our economy's 14% bigger. We've got a AAA credit rating from all 3 rating agencies. We've got 19 central banks around the world investing in our currency. Now, if that isn't a sign, a big tick in Australia's, economic credentials, I don't know what is.
Okay, Kelly, to you on that, because the 3 ratings agencies they all maintain that AAA credit rating for the Australian economy. That's the reality. And I suppose the same question that I put to Joe Hockey, that 6 years on of a Labor government, when do they start getting credit for that report card?
Well, sure. You know, the radio agencies, have said what they've said. But let me say this: we've experienced the highest terms of trade, higher than at any time during the previous coalition government. We should be doing a lot better. This government is spending $100 billion more than what we were spending during the last years of the coalition government. And they're receiving more than $90 billion more each year in extra revenue. We should be doing a lot better. They have turned a strong economic position on its head. They have delivered the highest deficits than we have seen in our entire history. They have promised in the upcoming budget, they've promised another 2 deficits. That's just for starters. That's more than $220 billion in accumulated deficits. And they're going to hit through the gross debt ceiling of more than $300 billion. Kevin Rudd has got to be honest about that. He's got to be honest about the fact that he was borrowing more than $100 million a day as Prime Minister.
Nick Champion, to you, on the Holden claims. Holden are now saying they want $265 million more, apparently, from the federal government. Joe Hockey this morning says there's got to come a time when enough is enough. Isn't that a fair enough argument, given how many hundreds of millions of dollars the automotive industry has received over recent years?
Well, what Joe Hockey did today was to basically indicate to your viewers that he was going to cut $500 million out of automotive assistance, send the jobs of Holden workers to China and to the US and to Europe. That's what he's going to do. He's going to ship manufacturing jobs offshore by cutting this assistance, and he's going to cause a recession in South Australia. That's the Liberal Party policy in this area. It's one of recession for South Australia, and it will be a devastating blow to my, not just my electorate, but to my state.
So you think the government should chip in another $265 million on top of $275 million already going to Holden?
Well, Kieran, they're press reports, but what I would say is, like, we should do what we can to ensure that manufacturing stays in Australia. It's a critical employer in South Australia. It's a critical employer in the nation. 50,000 jobs, direct jobs, are connected to it. And for every dollar we put into automotive assistance, we get 20 back in economic multipliers.
OK,
so
let's go to Kelly.
There is a
Kelly
massive
Aguiar,
jobs and investment benefit.
You've heard what Nick and Joe Hockey have both said. Obviously, well, I want to get your thoughts on that. The fact that Nick's saying you risk recession in South Australia if you don't stump up with that extra money.
Well, Nick's just talking rubbish. I mean, I hate to say it, Nick. You know, you're a nice guy, but honestly, that's complete rubbish. It is important to have a strong manufacturing industry. That's why we opposed a carbon tax. If you are serious about talking about the costs on our manufacturers, then you would actually scrap the carbon tax straight away. Do it today. We've said that we would do it. That is our election commitment, because we know that a $24 a tonne carbon tax compared to less than $6 in the rest of the world is having a huge impact on the costs of manufacturing. Now, Nick was not clear just now in terms of saying whether or not he agreed that new funding ought to be provided to Holden, and I think we need some clarity from the government as to whether or not they actually think they should throw more money at Holden. But it is one manufacturer amongst many. There are lots of people doing it tough right now. We've seen the NAB survey, the NAB business survey released just this week, and we have seen economic conditions deteriorate to a 4-year low. So these are not good times for everybody. We know that people are doing it tough, and it's a result of the government's very poor policies.
Nick, just finally to you.
Well, look, I think the car industry's issues are mainly due to currency issues. That is, that our currency has been very high, and our competitors have been slowly devaluating or sometimes quickly devaluing their currencies, and that's the main issue that our car industry faces. Now, there's only a couple of ways you can deal with this. You can either provide direct assistance, or you can have tariffs and quotas. Now, broadly speaking, this country has moved down the direction of co-investment. I think that's a sensible way to go, and we should do it to protect jobs.
All right, Kelly, just 20 seconds left. Your wrap up.
Oh, well, we already know that Nick has his own unique plan when it comes to car manufacturers. He wants to increase tariffs as well. So I suppose he's in line with the new industry minister there, Kim Carr.
Okay.
I mean, that would be a complete disaster.
Kelly Aguiar, Nick Champion, have a good day. Appreciate it. A quick break on AIM Agenda. We'll be right back with a look at China, talking to one of the world's eminent experts on China and its prospects. Stay with us.